What is going on, everybody? Mark here. You can find me on Instagram at markdarts. That's MARKD_ARTS. And if you click this video, assuming that you already took the photo properly, I hope properly, put it onto your computer somewhere, or you have your SD card in the computer, or however you like to work. I'm not going to go over that part exactly, but I will go over everything else. You click this video because you want to learn or just watch someone edit a photo from point A to B. Someone who's edited thousands of photos and knows, I would say, what they're doing and how to get from, a look that is flat to a very dense, contrasty, edited photo. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do everything. We're going to import the photo and finish it off, and we're going to have a conversation pretty much about my process and skip around the video or not, just watch the photo being edited pretty much. Instead of just a fast forward, you can actually just see slowed down version of me working as well as talking about what I'm doing. So I pretty much have to import the photo. So before I actually do that, let me just start by you open Lightroom, right? You're going to go to the library tab, and then we're going to go to the import on the bottom left, and we're going to hit import. We're going to locate the folder and files that we want to import. So I already know where it is. Just going to navigate to it. And here's my variants of my photos. I just took a macro picture of a moth, and we're going to make a edit of it. So I'm not going to make this go into a collection. I'm just going to import these variants of the photo from this folder, and just going to have it go into my general all photographs folder because I don't really have a lot or a whole collection to work here. So pretty much I'm going to get rid of the photos I don't really want, and we're going to go into the develop tab actually really quick because I only have a few. I just want to see if I can bring back, or what brings back. Nope. I'm pretty much going to just reject by hitting X all these extra dark photos. That one I'm going to leave. It looks really in focus. But I'm going to figure out which one I want the most. Don't want that one. Not that one. And alright. So I'm going to leave the rest of the photos because I'm not sure what I want yet. So I'm going to hit Control back or backspace. And then I'm going to actually, me personally, if I don't like the photo, I just immediately delete it from the computer, or else I just start saving too many crappy photos that I don't use. So I just like to get in the habit of rejecting and deleting. So let's see. I do like how I have a lot of the moth on that one, but I also like how it's cropped here. I might go with this one because I have a cropped moth completely to the top left. And as you can see on the bottom, the moth is not cropped at all. And on this one, it's kind of cropped on the bottom and left. And this one, it's only cropped on the bottom right. And I do like this one. I do like this one. Simply because I think it has potential. So I'm actually just going to get rid of this one. I don't really need this one. I'm just going to delete it from the disk. And now I'm left with the lower exposed version and the other cropped version here. So I'm actually going to start my editing with this one and see how it plays out. So I think we need to be a little bit brighter, and we're going to do that by the exposure tab. We're just going to add some more lightness, bring back our detail that we didn't crush or eliminate in the photo. We're going to add some more contrast, just to pop the moth out more. And in this particular photo, I'm not sure what I want to do with the shadows. Let me see how, if I bring the shadows up, how the blacks respond. Gonna leave my blacks there, and I think I'm just gonna leave my shadows. I'm gonna bring them down. Raise up my whites because all my whites are primarily in my moth here. And it's a little too bright, the moth, so I bring down the highlights, reveal some detail in that really bright area. Let's see what texture does. I do like a little bit of texture on this because it brings out the moth's texture a lot. Maybe just a tad of clarity, not too much, and just a tad of dehaze as well. Just gonna leave my colors as they are right now in this tab as is. And if you don't know what this graph here, this graph is very important. This is your histogram. I will probably make a separate video on this if you're watching this now. Hopefully I'd have in the meantime. Hopefully I have in the time I'm saying this, but you never know. Sometimes other things come up. I think I'm gonna bring the oranges slightly down, so yellow, and bring the red slightly up, and I'm gonna bring the blues down. Just gonna bring slightly everything down so I can mess with my luminance here. And this is illuminating the certain colors that you want to illuminate. And so if that's orange, I brought out the brightness in the orange. Now I can kind of mess with the yellows, and all the yellows is the stripe on the moth, so that kind of plays a role into the look of the photo. And the blue definitely plays a role in the top left of the moth. And I usually add I made a video about this separately. You should go watch this if you're not familiar with tonality and the way light works and the color theory behind certain things. And I explain what I'm doing, but I'm gonna add a highlight orange and a shadow blue. I'm gonna bring down the orange, it's too bright. And now we're kind of messing with that. So now we have a nice cold tone on the moth. You can see that slight blue, and we have the primarily orange background, which is going to give a nice contrast to the moth. And we're always going to go into our detail tab and just add a tad of sharpening, because we all need a little bit of sharpening from transferring from the SD card to the computer. There's always going to be lossy compression somewhere when transferring, so we want to always just add at least a smidge of sharpening, unless otherwise, that's the look you're going for in the reverse, into the smoother area. But for this photo, I'm actually trying to just go as sharp as possible. I'm going to bring up my luminance just to give a little bit of noise reduction. I am at 1600 ISO, although I have a full frame 60 Mark II Canon. There's still a little bit of noise always, so we always want to do a little bit of noise reduction for the most part. But noise really isn't a bad thing, but just going to limit a little bit of the noise here. Let's see how a vignette works. Typically, I like to make my own vignettes with the radial filter, and that's probably what I'm going to do. So I'm actually going to leave lens correction alone. I don't need to do anything else really in this. I don't really have any problems. I don't need to do any type of weird transforming on the photo, we're not going to be using this stuff. Not necessary. I don't want to add grain, and I'm not interested in doing any of this type of vignette that they got going on in here. Again, I usually add my own vignette with radial filter, which I'm going to do. And I'll show you something that I personally do in a lot of my photos. It's a little technique where I'll either use the graduated filter or the radial filter. I'll find my subject, hence the moth here. Gonna basically surround the moth, and we have to understand that if I click this checkbox here, it's gonna show me the effect area of the mask. So I'm making a circle around the moth, and it's going to affect everything outside of that circle. So watch, I'll bring my exposure down, and now I'm creating a vignette around the moth. It's very subtle, and I could make it more. You can see there, and I can always mess with the feather on the mask here, but I'm gonna do a slight vignette on the moth here. And then I'm actually going to decrease the clarity and decrease the sharpness around the sharp area of the moth. So now I've enhanced the blurriness, enhanced the bokeh in my photo through the use of Lightroom. And before I'm done with this photo, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate by right-clicking my radial filter. Just move it to the side a little bit so I don't have a problem selecting it. And I'm gonna just double click all these to get rid of them, make them go back to normal, and then I'm going to invert it, which is now making all the effect area with inside the oval here. And I'm actually going to make this oval a lot smaller. It's a little too big for the moth, and I'm actually going to rotate it a little bit just to make it a little bit more of a direct selection. Now you could use the adjustment brush for this. You could paint over the moth and not worry about the radial filter, but it's just it looks nice regardless, I think, especially with this type of composition. So it's also it's really just situational, and I think I can get away with the radial filter. It's a little bit quicker and saves me time. And pretty much on this duplicated filter, I haven't done anything yet, but after I inverted it, I'm going to bring up my exposure a little bit, and I'm kind of just going to go back and touch up the edits of the moth, because I made a lot of edits to the photo throughout the process, and I just want to make sure the moth always looks the best. and the sharpest. So I'm just kind of going over, adding contrast enhancements, adding maybe a little bit more saturation, sharpness, raise my noise tab up to denoise any of the extra editing that I'm doing, because the more editing you do and more detail you try and bring out, the more noise potential you have. And see, that's pretty much my touch-ups right there. All these sliders are pretty much representative of brightening it up and also making it more contrasted. So shadows down, blacks down, all the brights get brighter, all the darks get darker, and I raise my general exposure up, add more contrast, and then I get that nice clean foreground and background separation on the moth. So pretty much this is my edit here. I don't think I'm going to do anything else. Don't really want to or feel the need to. Maybe I could add like a spotlight over here. I kind of see a little light source, and I can enhance that maybe by inverting a brighten exposure kind of radial filter like this, like so. And then I'm going to make it a little bigger. I'll probably add some more feather because it's a little too dense. So I'm going to shrink it down a little bit, and I'm going to add a color to that. Maybe I'll do like a orange or yellow. Maybe do more saturated and maybe a little brighter. So now I have this kind of fake light source coming in just to give a little bit of flavor to the photo, and I'm just doing some more edits to it just so I get that perfect look. I'm kind of looking in the top left because that's how I kind of gauge what it's kind of, you always have to kind of step back from what you're working on to kind of understand what you're looking at. It's hard to, if you're working on a big screen like I am, to really gauge what you're looking at while sitting on top of it. So it's always good to step back or just look at this navigator up here. And I think I'm liking the photo. I think it's got a nice balance, nice weight. It's got life to it. Let's look at the before and after. It's got nice balance, it's got nice weight. Let's look at the before and after. So very big difference. You can see that I shoot really flat, really dull, but I want to expose it. I don't want to overexpose it. I don't want to lose any detail, and then I bring all that detail back and really crisp out the moth. And look at that spectacular detail I was able to capture with the Canon 100mm macro. Beautiful lens, and does a great job. Super close shooting. This had no range extender. It had no lens extender or anything like that. I just shot straight off the lens, off the camera. That's pretty much it. And I think I'm going to apply the same edits I did to this one, just really quick to see what happens, and then raise the exposure to see if I can even use this photo. I don't think I even need it. I'm kind of just liking the other one. Let me see, raise the exposure up. Black and white maybe. I don't know. I think I'm just feeling the color one. I'm not gonna delete this photo. I'll just leave it as just another photo that's available. But I'm just gonna export this one and then call it a day on this guy. So we're gonna go to, well, first we're gonna highlight the photo. Go to File, Export. My export location. Choose where you want to export the photo. So I'm going to go to where this photo is saved. I saved it in a MOTH folder. Just select there. And file name, just going to name it MOTH. No video, 100% quality JPEG at sRGB color space, so we don't have any color change or processing done on Instagram. When I post it, I don't want Instagram changing my colors, sRGB only. Pretty much that's the only color space you're going to see for a while. Used pretty much like dominantly over the industry and on the web. I want to be at 72 resolution, or I can be at 96 or like 120 for phones, but I'm just going to leave it at the base level default screen at 72. Sharpening low screen. I don't want to over sharpen with the exporter, but I just want to keep a little bit of that sharpness through the compression that's going to happen during export. Want all my metadata just in case. No watermarks and no post-processing. Do nothing, don't open anything, just no processing after the export is done. If you want to save a preset of that for whatever reason, go ahead and save a preset by hitting Add Preset on the bottom left here, but otherwise I'm just going to export this right now. And it's exporting on the top left, you could see. It's about to be done, just loading into there. It shouldn't take long, it's one photo. There we go. Probably taking a little longer because I am recording. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to open up that before and after. That is how I edit a photo pretty much most of the time. That's like a general idea of what I do. I would do it a lot faster if I'm not recording, but I'm trying to kind of do my best to work at a decent pace and show my process normally without doing too much of a tutorial. This is just supposed to be like a walkthrough, so now you see kind of what I did, and I hopefully explained enough where you can go back and zoom in and see the sliders and what I'm doing if you want. But that's really a general idea of how to get like from point A to point B in a raw photo. And you really wouldn't be able to do this if you were to shoot a JPEG or non-raw photo. You want to make sure that you're on that for Canon .cr2 file. For Nikon, I don't remember the extension because I'm not a Nikon user, but you want to make sure it's not .jpg or .jpeg. You want to be on that raw file so we can get the maximum amount of detail in post-production, hence Lightroom. So thank you for your interest in photography and this video. I hope this walkthrough was helpful to newbies and beginners, because this is basically level 1 of photography editing. Once you understand how everything works, everything else kind of just comes creatively, and this is more just just a door to get to your final piece. You should always know what you want your edit to look like while you're shooting your photo, because you want to shoot to edit that way. You don't want to shoot and then rely on editing, or you never want to shoot to crop. You don't want to rely on cropping to get the right frame. Do everything you can in camera, and then Lightroom should be a 1, 2, 3 process. Thank you for watching. My name is Mark DiMattei. You can find me on Instagram at markdarts. That's MARKD_ARTS. I post every day, and I do a lot of photography, so reach out to me if you'd like. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because I do this pretty much almost full time, and I'd love to keep doing it. So thanks again. Hope everyone liked the video. Thanks for watching.